All right, well, this evening I'm going to be replacing the thermostat on my wife's 2004 Chevy Trailblazer with this inline 6-cylinder engine. I think I would rather chew on a cup of nails than to do this job, but here we are. General Motors, in their infinite wisdom, actually I believe this is an Isuzu product that they partnered with Chevrolet. Anyway, whoever the engineer was, I'd like to slap their mother. The thermostat is behind the alternator, and the repair manual procedure says you have to remove the alternator to remove the thermostat. There is also another way of doing this, and it involves jacking the car up, taking the front wheel off, and working through the fender well. Although that looks to be just as much of a pain in the rear end as just removing the alternator. It's a very tight space. Getting the thermostat off is not terrible. Installing it would be the headache going through the fender well. It is burning hot out, even though it is in the evening. The humidity is like 1,000. I'm not about to handle parts and stuff with sweaty hands in a very cramped spot, and I've got larger hands. I think I'm going to give myself as much room as possible to work on this by removing the alternator. First, I'm going to disconnect the negative battery terminal. I'm going to be using my dynamic tools for the job. These are some high quality tools, lifetime warranty. Go to shopdynamictools.com, use code Detonator15 every time you shop and save 15%. Thanks to Dynamic Tools for sponsoring this channel and offering the Dana Nation a 15% discount using code Detonator15 every time you shop. It's a great deal. Next, I'm going to remove the lower radiator hose and drain the coolant out of this hose. These clamps are nice because they have a lock and they can lock open. The only trouble is it's kind of hard to get them to lock open. Oh, there's coolant down the armpit. Makes me gotta pee. All right, so I've captured about 1.5 gallons. About 2 gallons have come out, but I've captured about 1.5 gallons. Take the serpentine belt off. Going to remove this bracket. There's a 10mm bolt right here. There are two 15mm bolts right here. There's one more 15mm bolt on the back side of this bracket. You have to kind of go at it with an extension. However, this one doesn't have one. Somebody who had taken this off before did not put it back. So there's that. Those are the 3 bolt holes right there. We have a 15mm bolt right here, one right next to it, and I believe there's one like directly underneath the alternator. So we'll get those out. This one in here is a little hard to get to because their lines, these hard fuel lines are in the way, so a ratcheting wrench works really well. So for this bottom bolt, I'm going to use my Dynamic Tools stubby flex head ratcheting wrench to get this thing going. There isn't very much room. So the stubby flex head wrench from Dynamic Tools works real well in this situation because there's not a whole lot of room to swing a wrench. So this is nice. I'm not banging my hand on anything. And this is especially nice right here with that folded out of the way. That works pretty good. Okay, we've got an electrical connection right here. It needs to pop out. Set that aside. And then we've got a wire down here. I believe it's an 8mm, maybe a 10mm nut. Comes off the back side of this connector right there. Don't want to lose this nut. Now the tricky part, actually getting the alternator out. It's harder than it looks. Okay, so with the alternator out of the way, there's the prize right there, thermostat housing. And there's one. We'll get the other one, it's directly underneath it. That bottom one's a booger to get to. There's just no good angle to get your hand down there for that bottom one. Okay, wow. That bottom one was kind of a booger. Not kind of, it was a booger. That O-ring is still stuck to the block. Make sure I get that off. Don't want that thing still on there. For the record, I should have disconnected this from the hose before I pulled it out, but since I didn't, now I have to reap what I sowed. Well, I loosened the clamp, took a little flathead screwdriver in here to break the seal. So we'll grab the new one, slap that thing on the car. Here's the new one. It is part number 41392. Crack this puppy open, make sure it matches. The new O-ring is down the box, can't lose that. Yeah, looks like we got ourselves a match. So this thermostat will be installed with this notch right here, upwards. Okay, I got the new O-ring installed. And be real careful putting this in because I don't want that O-ring to jar loose. Gonna run that in finger tight. We'll get the other bolt in. We'll snug this puppy up. Oh man, it's just so tricky to get that my big old fat arm down in here. There we go. Just hoping that O-ring didn't come loose. Okay, nice and snug. Got both bolts tightened down. Now I'll reconnect the radiator hose. Put that clamp back on. Slide that over the hose. Fishing the hose up from the bottom. There we go. Just gonna swing this thing around, slide it on the end of the housing. Now I'm gonna go underneath. Okay, hose clamps are clamped. Thermostat housing is bolted in. Now it's just a matter of putting everything back the way it was, reversing the process of taking it off. So I'm putting the captive coolant back in its home. We were able to salvage a whole bunch of it, so as long as it's clean, we'll put it back in. Once this is all back in the system, I'll go underneath the car, make sure there isn't any leaks or anything. So what I have left in the jug is what came out of the engine block. So we'll tighten this back up. We'll run the engine for 5-10 minutes. Let this coolant circulate. We'll check the level, check the temp, make sure it doesn't overheat, and then we should be good to go. I'll just throw the rest of this into the reservoir. I think it's hit the overflow mark. I heard it hit the ground. That's not good. Anyway, we'll run this thing for 5-10 minutes. We'll let the level go down, and then we'll top it off. We'll let this warm up, get to operating temperature, let the thermostat open, fill the engine block, cycle that coolant, and then we'll recheck the level after a few minutes. So it's been running for 10 minutes. The coolant level went down in the reservoir just a smidge, put a little more coolant in there. I hit the gas pedal a few times around 3,000 RPM for about 30-second intervals to get the engine to warm up quicker. It's set operating temperature, it's not getting hot. So as we drive it over the next few weeks, we'll just keep an eye on the coolant level. If it drops, we'll just add more. And we'll keep an eye on the coolant temperature, make sure that never really spikes and overheats the engine, because there might be an air bubble in there, who knows. For right now, it's running good. The temperature is right where it's supposed to be, and the coolant level so far is about right where it needs to be. Again, we'll just keep an eye on it. So overall, it is a very tedious job. I don't understand why the thermostat is right where it is in this vehicle. But then again, I'm not an engineer and I don't get paid the big bucks. But the mechanics sure do get paid the big bucks, because that's a lot of labor for just a thermostat. So if you want to tackle this yourself, it's certainly doable. You'll get the satisfaction of doing it yourself and also knowing you save yourself some money. Well, if you found this video informative, or at the very least amusing, give it a thumbs up. As always, thanks for watching. God bless. Hit that like switch on your way out. We'll see you next time.